Welcome to Backyards and Bevvies. Grab your favorite bevvy, pull up a chair, and enjoy the ride. Hey, welcome to Backyards and Bevvies, your midweek treat for laughs, silliness, some seriousness, and special guests. And today we have probably one of the biggest special guests I've ever had in my entire life on my show. Well, I mean, granted, I've only had 5 people. No, I've interviewed 8 people, but still, this is the biggest to date. And it's not big because, like, I met you on tour. Like, we met nowhere even close to a stage. We met 30 years ago now.
I want to say 4th or 5th grade.
We were young. Well, we were living in that neighborhood. But we came close in 4th or 5th grade. But before we get to that story, this is my best friend, Neal.
What up, Nashville?
Neal Showtime McKinnon. Yeah, your old BMX nickname.
We're not going to tell those stories, though. I didn't come here for that.
What a cool nickname, though. I will say this is pretty much an honor to have you on because, I mean, we've gone around the sun many, many times together. We've been through, oh my gosh, ups, downs, thick, thin, expulsions, jail, cop cars. I mean, I think the laundry list of things that we can't name on this show we've done and been through. I don't think we've kissed, though. Maybe you kissed me one time drunk.
Oh, why does that be me? Maybe you kissed me one time when you were drunk.
But I'm super stoked that you're here, dude. This is awesome. I've never I'll try not to yeah you either. But it's cool that it's fall. I can see that we're both wearing sweatshirts right now. Some of these interviews I've been doing, I haven't aired them yet, so people will watch them and they'll be like, oh, why is it sunny one day and getting cold in the other days? But today's a freaking nice day. We woke up, I was a little hungover, I'm not gonna lie. You were a lot hungover.
I was a lot a bit hungover.
Well, when I left you on the couch, you were still watching It, but then you said you found some other shows. So
I mean, I don't know if you can actually watch the original It drunk by yourself.
I was very impressed. I was honestly like, wow. I know you're tough, but that was like a whole level of toughness I couldn't even pull off.
And then I ended up rolling it over into a TV series. My sister called me and recommended last night, and that was a mistake to do when drinking also. So yeah,
I thought I heard a noise right around like 4 a.m. and I was like, yeah, I'm too tired to even.
Well, there's no sneaking around your house.
The floorboards are yeah, 1948 floorboards really don't have a nice sound to them at 4 in the morning. Dude, but it's hysterical because every time we went the last time you were in my backyard, I was getting married, which in itself was something that I never thought I would do. And I mean, you being at my wedding, I'd been to one of yours when we were young, and then I was on the road the last time you married. And for you to be at my wedding, I was like, oh wow. And it was awesome because it was a lot of people that we had known growing up. It was like small and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. But you always coming to my house is always such an honor because for years it was me on the road, traveling, nowhere to live, and I would just sleep on your couch.
You had a bedroom at one point.
I did have but think about all the different houses you lived in across the globe or across the United States, and it was the couch for so many years.
A lot of people would always ask me too, why doesn't he have a place? I'm like, he's like 3 days out of the year that he sleeps on my couch. Why would you pay for that?
Yeah, why do you need to pay for anything like that? So it's always, I don't know, you showed up yesterday. Actually, you showed up really late the night before. We stayed up super late and hurt ourselves real bad yesterday, and then a little hurt yesterday. But it's like we can pick up anywhere.
For sure.
I mean, when you went to Delaware to be in the Coast Guard, I think that might have been the longest time. BK asked me that. She was like, what's the longest you've gone without seeing Neal? And I think that was the longest.
For sure. We didn't visit. I don't even remember how many times we came home, period, much less have friends come out. I think I kind of just pushed through that deal and got it over with.
Yeah, I felt like every time that we did talk, we talked for like 4 hours, but you were on watch. anyone listening that's in the Coast Guard, Neal was working extra hard.
I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I was being a good soldier.
Everyone was safe.
But that was, I mean, honestly, I remember you would call me. It would be like 3 a.m. wherever I was in the world, and we would just drunk talk. Well, I would drunk talk, and you would probably hungover talk. And you would be on watch for hours.
And my watch shift in the beginning until I went places was from midnight until the morning. So it was all
Crazy.
night long.
Crazy.
Horrible. Nothing to do.
Nothing.
Like, I'd rather talk to you drunk than stare at the ocean.
I mean, but that, even starting this podcast, I had to think back. My dad used to be like, "What do you two talk about for hours?" We would, even when we were kids, we would talk for like hours and we would stay up for. It was like we're two little like clueless schoolgirls that just had to giggle all night. And to this day, I'm pretty sure we talk, if not every day on the phone, every other day.
I think every day is probably accurate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a little more available now when you're in your car for 4 hours commuting.
It's usually my fault when we don't talk. I'm like, oh, this guy just put a window upside down. Let me call you tomorrow.
Oh, look at that little guy. Well, I'm thirsty. Are you thirsty?
Absolutely.
You look like I need to drop a couple Advil inside yours. So you have a friend in Houston. Is it Houston? How does Paul Wall say it?
You got to ask Paul Wall.
Does he have a mouthful? Well, he has a mouthful of diamonds.
I don't want to be on record mocking him.
He'll find you.
He's Houston famous.
He is.
I have to go back to Houston, so.
True. I'd miss Houston. I never thought I would live there, but I do miss it.
I mean, it's great here. It's different. It's a different world.
Yeah,
plus, where you live is
quiet.
A completely different world.
It's no Montrose.
No hustle bustle.
No hustle. But was it 604? No. What's that circle? 610?
610? Inside the loop?
Inside the loop. So your friend turned you on to this new tequila, and we used to drink a lot of tequila, so I mean I think it's a fair bet that was going to be the drink of choice.
So I scooped that one up to bring it to you because my buddy's selling it out in Houston, and it's the bomb.
Yeah, so he's a rep for it, right? You were saying? And it's called Socorro Tequila. And this is bottle number 7. I mean, this is pretty awesome. I'm going to link it up and everything for everyone. This is the Blanco. All right, well, let's get it.
It's a sweet one.
You made some specialty drinks, though, so this isn't just that straight. Like, remember back in the day when we would go to Juarez? I don't think that was tequila we were drinking, but they claimed it was.
We're getting sprayed with super soakers by grown men when we're 14, and we for some reason think that's really cool.
Cheers, dude. Thanks for bringing the tequila. All right,
Thanks for having me.
This is your little specialty ranch water concoction you made with a little tahini in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm already drunk again. I think it's hysterical that me and your wife have a running joke that when we're making drinks, we don't need to make Neal drinks today, or just not yet. Like, those can wait till a little later.
I mean, it's just so much more work. If you want to go back and make it 12 times, you run out of Sprite, you run out of something. Why don't you just make one legit one and then just get it done?
Just go in hard.
Commitment. It's all about heart, bro. You gotta have heart in everything you do.
Hey, that is a fair fact on that one. But yeah, back to Juarez. Remember, I mean, the first time I went to Juarez, it wasn't with you, but I was 13. How old were you?
I think as far as going with friends, 13. But I think my uncle had taken me a few times. Actually, he took me and you a few times when we were 13. We went to a washes contest one time.
Yeah.
With my uncle, and my mom didn't know. And we came back all drunk.
Yeah.
And my uncle got
I don't remember that, but I kind of remember.
We went farther than I've ever been.
Well, okay. Yes. I can remember that. That's the thing. We went through so many times. There's times you'll tell me a story, and I'm like, was I there? And then I have to think about it, and then all of a sudden, like a little flashback of me, like, in a pair of Jinkos and some sort of, like, untied, disgusting etnies on.
Or Doc Martens.
Well, we went through a lot of phases. Now, do you remember Mexico to us, if no one's ever heard of Juarez, Mexico, it's right on the border of El Paso, Texas. So we grew up in El Paso, Texas, on the west side of town, which your house, I think you could throw a rock across the border at your house, right?
The end of my street was the river.
Yeah, and then that led right over to Mexico. Now but you didn't get into the heart of like Juarez until you went to like downtown El Paso and then crossed the bridge.
Right.
So,
Actually, if you crossed the river by my house, you crossed New Mexico, where New Mexico, Texas, and Mexico met. So if you went into New Mexico and then 35 yards to the left, you would be in Juarez.
Stumbled a few steps to the left.
You might stumble into something you don't want to also.
Yeah. Well, and there was the Rio Grande River separated all of that, and then there was Mount Cristo Rey right there. But we used to leave your house, and it would take us, I mean, I can picture the drive. We went up the road, we hit, not even Mesa, Doniphan, we got on the old freeway, and it would take us 10 minutes.
Yep.
I mean, into Mexico, though. Not even like, that's not parking, nothing. That's just like, we're already standing in Mexico ready to drink at 13. And remember, we didn't even have to show like IDs or, I mean, okay, maybe a fake paper ID that like we drew like in your office that day, but and then maybe like stuck a picture on it.
No, I used to have a note from my mom that said I was allowed to be over there drinking. And then, well, when was it? 14, I was driving. So I was already driving us by 8th grade.
Stay on the mic there.
And driving us by 8th grade. And we would get busted by the Border Patrol for curfew. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, Mr. Border Patrol,
yeah, my mom.
Let me unfold this note my mom wrote.
And then they would all laugh. They'd be like, Mama's boy. This Mama's boy brought a note to the party. No, that's true. You did drive. I mean, going to Mexico, though, we would cross over, get hammered, and then drive home. Like 14-year-olds in the most dangerous car in the world, a Geo Tracker. It's like 4 doors of death.
I'm going to just say I don't remember that car.
That car was... I remember many stories of that car. But we grew up pretty rowdy as kids at a young age. And so when we first met in the first neighborhood, we had a mutual friend, and that's how we crossed paths. Remember Ty?
Mm-hmm.
You lived at the bottom of the hill. And that was a hill to bomb, too. I mean, that was a tall death trap, too.
It was gnarly.
Gnarly.
Every single street ended or crashed into
a house.
My street.
Yeah. Like, if you didn't have good brakes, which none of us did, you were dying.
I mean, I lost some skin on that hill trying to stop myself quite a few times.
Yeah, and it was like, but it reminded me of The Sandlot. It was a summer full of just kids wiling out. And we lived right next to the ghetto, too. There was that projects right next door to us. So we would go hang with like
Was it Machuca?
No,
Sandoval.
Sandoval, yeah. And we would go hang with them. We'd go get rowdy with them during the day and then come back and be like little white kids playing football in the street.
People never believe me when I tell them that I went to a Cholo gang jumping in party at 14 years old, and we played Edward 40 Hands.
I think that was younger. When the first time I saw someone get jumped into a gang, I mean, I was probably 11.
But who gets invites to those things?
Well, I mean, it wasn't an evite. It was like a it was like a little birthday card, like, dear Neal.
Formally asked my mom, "Can I take Neal to a gang beating?" My mom, "Oh, sure, just make sure he comes home."
Yeah. But that I look back on that street and that whole area as being some of my favorite memories as a kid. But then you moved away, and I didn't think we were probably going to see each other again. Well, I mean, just out of the sheer distance that we lived, you were going to go to a new school. But then, lo and behold, we ended up at Lincoln together. And because it was I think it was like 5th grade when we truly met.
Right. And do you remember that Ty ended up moving onto the same street I moved on?
Well, that was
5 houses down.
That was the kicker, was that, Ty moved down the street from you.
And it was the same house as my house, same floor plan as my house.
I mean, almost. It was crazy. And then then I had slowly met like Andy and a few other guys. And then we had the other mutual friend that would ride dirt bikes around your neighborhood at like, midnight with no clothes on, that we all would no parents at all, and we would just all hang at his house like little hood rats. But then that's truly the neighborhood, though, that I would say, bonded.
For sure.
I mean, from the swimming pool from riding to the mall.
Homemade go-kart races.
Yeah, like
Pee Wee 50 time trials around the cul-de-sacs.
It was mayhem at its finest at a young age. And then we found
gun wars.
Alcohol. Well,
I'm kind of glad we found alcohol after those things, though.
Yeah, we were kids for up until, 14, 13. It would sound so bad.
Really grew up then.
Also, then we grew up at 13. But I remember having a rock fight. Remember the cops came and there was rocks for a whole city block. And it wasn't like we were throwing pebbles. We were throwing full-on boulders at times. Well, maybe not boulders, but handfuls of rocks. The Coopers across the street, I'm pretty sure, wanted to beat us up because they were definitely not happy with us already. But that was a wild time.
I forgot how lawless Watts' house was.
Lawless is a good term.
Like, whatever you wanted. Whatever you want to do. Like, you want to set the house on fire? Okay. I'm not going to stop you. BB guns, rocks, dirt bikes, driving cars, breaking windows.
Fireballs. Remember we lit your ditch on fire? Right behind your house and then
not
ran?
We.
Me?
Yeah.
And then I ran.
Left me there. Kicking dirt, trying to put that fire out so I didn't burn down my whole neighborhood.
I was kind of mean.
I kind of blocked that memory. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
that one really hits home.
It's just wild though, to look back, because I do tell some stories sometimes, and I wouldn't say that we were the most rowdy kids in the world. I'm sure there's Russians out there that are way rowdier than we are, but I mean, we had a fun time. From Andy to Slop to all those guys. Like, trouble was definitely around.
I mean, we weren't even that. I mean, the things we were doing were savage. Obviously, not supposed to be throwing rocks and stuff like that. But I mean, none of the neighbors got hurt. We didn't damage anyone's houses. Like, we were just doing stupid kid stuff.
There's more cleanup, I think. It was like a 24/7 cleanup in that neighborhood after us.
For sure.
But that was another neighborhood full of kids. Like,
tons.
after you leaving, would you say that was like the Gus Rawless neighborhood? Would you call it that? And then you moved to the Siete de Leguas. Yeah, I can't believe I even remember that. But there was a whole other group of people that we would associate with, and I don't know, they were just really good memories. So having you here always brings up probably every wild memory in my mind, and then that's probably why we don't sleep and we just sit up and talk and drink all night, because
we always have something to talk about.
Always have something to talk about. See, I will say again, thank you for coming out here, because it means a lot that you came to visit me and my little nugget and Uncle Neal.
I came for the baby. Get over yourself.
I came for the baby. All right, so when we were 18, I have to say, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I thought you had a plan. I was very surprised, but life changed really. And I'm bringing you on here a lot too, not just so we can tell crazy stories, because we could honestly tell every crazy story for hours. But I was really surprised in how you grew up at 18 a lot, because you had a baby. I mean, what's insane to me is that you have a 20-year-old son, and I'm just having a baby.
I heard you have 3 kids that can babysit your kid.
I know, right? Isn't that
Scary.
crazy? And the whole time that we were friends, I was set to being Uncle Phil the rest of my life until I met BK. And that's crazy to think about, because people used to always ask me, like, you can't just live at this guy's house. I'm like, haven't you ever seen the show Full House? The hell I can't.
I mean, I was good to go. I was going to let you stay forever.
Yeah. But isn't that crazy, though, that you at 18... Well, we had a couple friends that had kids, but I mean, you and me have stayed in touch the most. So to me, like, obviously you're the one that I can compare anything to. And my whole life I've looked at you and been like, wow. It's just so awesome that you've, like, sacrificed your whole... so much, because you were going to be a pro BMX rider.
That was the plan.
You had sponsors, and I mean, you were up there. I have to say, it's pretty cool.
Life happens. you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it was kind of at a pivotal point.
You
at
remember?
18.
Do you remember that day?
Yes.
I remember you're like, I think you need to come to my house.
We need to talk.
I was like, oh gosh. What is he going to tell me?
So this is probably going to be the worst, saying that I'm the worst person to tell this quick story, but my mom didn't get to know for like 5 months
Yeah.
that I was having a baby. And she already knew. She was just waiting for me to man up enough to come clean. And I take her to lunch and I'm like, so I have something to tell you. And she's like, oh, do you? Like,
the pregnant girl walking around my house, you're like, dang.
the lady that's about to have a baby that's living in with us, she's pregnant, just so you know.
Yeah, I knew she was getting chubby, but for the right, like for the right reason. Like she doesn't button her top button anymore. Way to go, Neal. I could just see your mom too, like, because your mom is just such a serious, like, she just says it how it is.
For sure.
So I can only imagine that she was like, Neal, just say it.
That was tough. I mean, I haven't really ever been scared of my parents. I was scared of my mom that day, for sure. That was a tough day.
What'd you tell her? Do you remember?
I actually do. We went to a place called the Greenery in the mall.
One of your favorites.
I mean, I guess I tried to make it all places I was comfortable when I knew that I might not come back. Like,
have your last meal.
And I mean, it was just a normal lunch. And then, I mean, I think I consciously knew that she was well aware that I think it was already a done deal. And so it was just straight up. And I was like, so I have to tell you something. She's like, bring it on. I'm like, having a baby. She's like, yep, you're an idiot.
But at 18, I think like at 18 though, I mean, that was hardcore because we had so many other things happening in our lives. We were wild children, or still kids, having kids. But you did something that I really didn't think, I never saw you doing this, but you went out and did something, one of the most responsible things I ever could have pictured you doing. You went and joined the Coast Guard.
I mean, my parents, for sure, I have to give them some credit, because one of the things that I took away from them, even at a young age, was that, if you do something, you own it. You can't come to us to bail you out of things. If you're going to put yourself in a situation, there's no fight or flight. It's fight is what you do.
Get in there.
And that's what I did. I mean, that was the plan. And I feel like I don't think I was even robbed of any child. I mean, thank God we were able to do the things we got to do starting at 13. Some kids don't get to start doing things like that till they're 21. Sometimes ever.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I think we've always said too, as friends, is we got a lot of things out of the way young. I mean, let's just be honest. We did a lot of things at a young age that then if we potentially, someone could say, well, you missed out in your 20s, they'd be like, nah, I already did it.
For sure.
And I did it hard. Like,
now
really hard.
Almost that age daughter is like, oh, I got in trouble and I have lunch detention because I did X, Y, Z. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, don't do that again. But in my mind, I'm like, well, you're not getting sprayed by a grown man with a super soaker full of rubbing alcohol. Or going to a gang fight initiation party.
You're just being a little rowdy.
Or took my car to another country.
And again, you have 3 kids that you've raised, and you started raising them as kids, and they're awesome kids, dude. I mean, so you go through like little things with them, but I mean, you as a dad have never had to like, remember when your mom got us out of the cop car after we ran over the curb leaving Juarez and the cops chased us down the freeway? You haven't had to do that yet. And there's probably a high chance that you'll never have to do that.
I hope to God I never have to do that.
I'm pretty sure she snuck us into the house too that night. She like sweet talked the cop with some gin. No
one even got in trouble, which is insane.
No, what's his name's brother, I think, was the only one.
He got right?
Yeah.
Clint.
Yeah, but the rest of us, they just let us...
Do you remember that he was already in it? He was like... We were 15, and he was like 20 years old.
Well, he was like, guys, I'm already in trouble. I ran from the cops last week, but I'm going to drive us to Juarez. And we were like, okay, cool. You're not going to get like... And the worst part is that we probably were like, you're only going to have like 30 beers, right? Because we're going to have 60. Oh, yeah, I'll be sober enough to drive. We're like, okay, cool.
Sounds good. We vote you.
You're the one least... He probably went across to the pharmacy and picked up a couple of roofies and freaking...
I just remember his mom having to come to my house so that my mom could explain to him or to explain to her why, like what went down. And his mom obviously was not like our parents.
No.
And she was just like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. And my mom was like, well,
It happened.
boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. Dude, and we were in your parents' truck. There was like people in the back. I mean, we hit that curb not like at 4 miles an hour. I think it was like a good solid 10 miles an hour, like 15 miles an hour, right in front of a cop, and then ran. And people were in the back of your truck. I was jammed in the little crawl space in between the back and the freaking front seats.
I took that truck went with me to the military. That was my first truck.
That was a good truck though.
That green Chevy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can picture it right now.
Remember Ty's green Chevy?
No.
Nope.
Probably for a good reason. But I mean, that I will always remember that night as being one of those like, wow, I cannot believe we got out of this. There's been a few more of those, but that was definitely a big one. My dad was definitely not in the loop, and I look at that a lot as I'm raising. Well, as one day I'm gonna have to raise a teenager. It's like, man, I think I was so dishonest, and I just wanted to get back at for whoever reason it was. But your parents were together and they were awesome. And the one thing that you were always with them was you were always honest. You never lied to your parents.
I never had to.
You're one of the most honest people I know. And which is, I mean, maybe other people have never known that, but I've watched you do some stuff and you just straight own it. I love it. And I was telling your wife that I was like, there's something really cool about that as a parent raising, well, you have a son and 2 daughters, which is hard. Because, I mean, I could just imagine daughters are just hard in general because there's just that feeling of a father and their daughter, And
totally different.
Yeah, because you and Austin have a different relationship than you and the little ones. And so, whatever. But I will say, you were always honest. And your parents just ate it. They'd be like, well, you're an idiot, but thanks for being honest. I'd come up with the most elaborate, detailed lies of the century. And my dad would be like, it's so good, I might have to believe this.
Right. I can remember having to get rides to go to my house so that you could answer the phone. So when your dad called, you were where you said you were.
Yeah.
Just so that we could leave and go back to wherever it was that we...
Which is horrible. I think that was like a very unhealthy thing for me growing up because it led me down a path of, you all right over there? I thought you already had too much tequila. This stuff's good, by the way.
It's so good.
But it led me down a path of thinking that lying was okay. And it was definitely unhealthy for many relationships I had in my life because then I just thought that like if I told a better lie, then I would eventually get out of it and I would get out of it. And so I always commended you and your parents. And I look at that relationship because your parents have been married, 60 years now?
Maybe, I don't even know. Forever.
And like, they're wild. They're hysterical, but they're married and they're happily married. They go on camping trips and do all the things and
still going strong.
There's something to be said about that honesty in life. And I just have realized it over the past, let's say 2 years. But I feel better. Like my life is actually on an uptick as opposed to living the same drawn out lie that I've lived my whole life. And so looking back at us being kids, it was like, yeah, you just stood up to all the issues and I was the one running to the phone to call my dad to tell him a better lie so we could go back out and party.
I told Austin that, my son, growing up the whole time. I'm like, I'm gonna be more mad at you if you make me find out the truth.
Yeah.
Like, just come at me straight and let's get it over with. Like,
yeah. Would you say that when he was young, you at a certain point would see things like that you're like, man, I'm seeing some little details of me and him, or was he always just different from you?
I think he was different because he was raised different. I mean, I'm very hard on I mean, it's probably bad, maybe not a healthy thing, but I'm very hard. I was hard on him and I'm very hard on my girls. I mean, and it's for the simple reason that I don't want him to grow. I don't want him to do the things we did. I don't want him to grow up. I mean, some of the things were great experiences, but there's a lot more things we did that were not great experiences, and we should have probably never done those things.
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids anywhere near that stuff. And so
I
see some things in them. I mean, my daughter definitely has some she carries a lot of my some of my negative traits. And she uses them back at me, and then I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm like, oh man, I know exactly what's going on here. This is horrible.
Dang. Like she got me.
But my son, I mean, he's a different. I mean, he's a grown man, and he's a good man. I mean, he's a good kid.
I will say, yeah, like seeing Austin, I didn't see him maybe till he was 4, I would say, because you left. How long were you in Delaware?
Almost 6 years.
So maybe I didn't even see him born, because he was born over there, right?
No, he was born in El Paso.
Was he? Okay,
Yeah.
Then I did see him, but then you left shortly after that.
Correct.
And then when you arrived in El Paso, he was already playing with Nerf guns and stuff. So I missed out on his younger years, but I never saw him like being anywhere close to what we were.
Right. I had a story I wanted to tell you about Austin from being like a 18-year-old, 19-year-old dad. Something that it's one of those things you don't tell strangers really because it's horrible.
Uh-huh.
So, but it's pretty hilarious. And now that we're older, it's funny because of what it is. So I was doing like daddy daycare day, baby on my chest, sleeping. Everything's good. Thinking like, I'm killing it today.
Yeah.
Today's daycare day, I owned it.
But being a 19, 20-year-old dad too, you're like, I have no one to tell me anything, and I'm living halfway across the world from my parents. Like, I'm just
no help.
So you're that day you're like, I'm owning this,
and I thought I was winning, and I woke up, baby's not there. So first thing I'm like, oh, lost the baby, and then I'm like, what does that smell?
Oh,
and I look out and I have baby poop on my hand, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. And then I'm like, oh. It's on my face. Oh, that's baby poop too. All over my face.
Oh my god.
And then so now I'm like, can't find the baby, covered in poop. Now it's time to panic. Like, abort the mission. Like, I am no longer winning this daycare day. And get up and look.
This has turned to code red.
And I go around the couch and I just see the baby, little Austin, sitting down, covered in poop.
Oh,
diaper off, poop everywhere. And then I'm like, all right. Got to reevaluate. I could fix this. So I start managing things, clean up everything, and I think, all right, since it was just us, I'll never have to tell anyone about this. Like, we can get through this.
We can get through this.
But then get to my remote control for my TV. Hadn't been there yet. Poo. Covered in poo.
Just packed into the buttons, too.
I think he got it in the phone, like in the charging part of the phone. God. And then I don't even know, I never talked about it after that, but for probably weeks after that, I find little things. So, I mean, he had him up for an hour just like painting the town with
having fun with poo. That's awesome.
And I'm sure when he hears this, he'll really appreciate that story.
Nah, I mean, but that's one of those like little moments though. He's a baby. You can't even get mad at that,
right?
Like you can, but what do you like? That's like yelling at a dog. Are you really winning? No. Like, it's a baby. He pooped everywhere because that's what babies do. And he doesn't understand that you can't wipe poop on dad's
You're
face.
Supposed to do that?
He's still on a diaper. But that's where I laugh right now because I think if 18-year-old Phil had a baby, I don't know if I would have been able to handle it as good as you did because I think you already had mentally what it took. I just grew up last year. So I think I'm finally able to like mentally say this, but I got it now, but it took me time. You've always been a dad, dude. Every time I've come to see you or come to visit you, you've been a dad, and it's been so wild to me because you might have been jealous of my life, but in a way, like I was like, man, how is like my best friend so responsible and I'm so not responsible? Like maybe that's what makes us best friends. And so now it's funny because now I can see you like at times you're like, kids are old. They can take care of themselves. They're making themselves dinner, putting themselves to bed. Mommy's going out. Mommy and daddy are going to go have
my best life.
I'm going to live my best life. Hey, how's having a baby, Phil?
Hey, can you come? Oh, wait. You have a baby.
Oh, too bad. Have fun wiping poop off the wall. When I was thinking about having you on this podcast, it really was always gonna be about dad stuff because I've just always really been impressed with you. Like maybe I've told you that once or twice drunk, or when you tried to kiss me that one time, I was like, all right, dude, like I might be impressed with you, but get off. I've always just really been like, wow, you're a responsible dad. And so looking at my like little things that have happened, like when my baby blew poop all over the wall at 4 or it might have been like 2 in the morning, I was already ready. Like you said, I'd mentally checked out. I was like, I'm good. I've fed him. I'm getting him on the changing table. I can see my pillow. It's close. Like I'm going back to bed in a few moments. I will have my eyes closed because I'm getting up at 4:30 to go work out, and then I got to go do my job. And that's when I was working that warehouse. So I was doing a job that I really didn't like. I was doing it because I just needed some cash. And so having the baby was like cool, but I was like, dang, I really just want to go back to bed for many, many more minutes before I have to go live this life. And then poo came shooting out of his butt. Like I didn't think poop could do that, especially from like a little 8-pound sweet dear, little baby. And it hit the wall, and my whole life crashed for a second. I just remember like you going through moments like that. I remember you telling me a story one time of how your patience started with one of your daughters. You're like, I learned that I have patience today because she lost her mind. I think it was in a Target or something, and then she spit in your mouth, like threw a punch at you.
I swear to you, I was gonna tell that story. And just to wrap that up, that is the day that I realized patience. That was it. Like if there was a time I was ever going to kill one of my children, I had to decide that day.
Yeah.
I mean, she threw a fit over something silly.
Yeah.
And it escalated into like me carrying her, like back arching, screaming, punching.
People probably thought you were stealing her.
My wife was there, and she straight up acted like she didn't know who I was. Like she stayed in line, like, look at this dad stealing this baby. Like, and all the ladies around her are like, what a terrible dad.
Oh my gosh!
And
look at that guy.
She did spit in my mouth. Then she punched me in the face. She arched her back and tried to jump out of my hands. And so now I clinched her up a little tighter like a football, and I'm like, we are going to the car. And on my way out, she managed to get the keys out of my hand and threw them backwards.
Oh my God.
And I couldn't find them. And I had to turn around holding her like a football while she's screaming bloody murder. And everyone, I mean, there was like 50-50 people thought I was stealing the baby.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
Other people were like, terrible dad.
You're like, we got to put this on World Star right now.
Right. But then there was one lady when I finally got my keys and she calmed down a little bit, and I was like on level 20.
Yeah, steam
of the angry,
yep.
Embarrassed, angry,
oh yeah,
like the whole nine. The lady's like, hey. And I'm like, what's up? She's like, the next time that happens, she's like, you just lift up the back of their shirt and you pinch the out of them. And then she's like, make sure you lift the shirt up though, so they'll put the shirt back down and you can't see where you pinched them. I was like, and at the time I'm like, good advice. And then get in the car and process. I'm like, that's terrible advice.
That's horrible advice. Who
horrible
are you?
Person.
I call the cops on you. Like I just handled this really well. Actually, I think like maybe there was an explosion for a moment, but like she calmed down. I remember you. That's one of the more vivid like childhood stories you've told me, like of you raising kids, and that is patience, dude. Like raising kids is patience. It's challenging, I will say, to a certain extent, and I can see why people snap. Like it's very like there's no words. You can't use words. Sometimes you just have to use like smiles, or I don't even know.
And I think I'm less patient as they've grown up because I feel like now there are certain things that we shouldn't be having conversations about.
Yeah.
Like when my daughters do things and I'm like, don't do that. And then the next time I'm like, please don't do that. Third time I'm like, what is going on? And then my wife and everyone's like, oh, you're so mean. I'm like, I gave you 3 chances, bro. Like, come on.
When they were babies, I gave them 8. But I don't know. I think it's, yes, all the times that you might catch a little flack for it, you're still a great dad. Like,
thanks.
You show up every day. You go, I mean, you tuck your jeans into your boots and go to work every morning. I've been staring at those boots, just wanting to make that comment. No, I mean, you did it though. You've had some really challenging jobs as a human. When I was working at that warehouse, I humbled myself because I went from having a 6-figure paycheck every year to making below what a lot of people make at my age in life with careers and all that stuff. And I look back to, I remember you driving almost 2 hours in the morning, sometimes like 2.5 hours at nighttime from HD Supply when you moved to Houston. Just to collect and that wasn't a big paycheck either. That was just a paycheck just to probably pay some bills and the rent. And Jody was working freaking full time as an insurance person. And I mean, you guys were definitely at the point of like, we're making it, but this is hard. And
for sure,
I have some mad respect for that, because you left El Paso you left family, you did a bunch of stuff to pursue a career, and that bee wanted you. That bee's wanted your drink for a while now. You did it though. You did some stuff that was really, and it was all for your kids. I know it wasn't for you to drive any Lamborghini or for you to have some, sick watch or, be anything more than just a dad. And not many people will do that. A lot of people just take the easy route and, give up or freaking get a divorce or, go do something else that's way easier. And you stuck it out and you went and you did all these really, really things that are just kind of hard.
I think sometimes people lose sight of how selfish you can be when you have children. I mean, it's just my way of looking at it, but I mean, it's no longer, of course you still have every right to be happy, but now my job is to keep those humans alive. Like, yeah, that's it. I'm winning if I can get that done. And I'm trying to get that done. So,
and one of your little ones, I'm pretty sure she's going to be a peacemaker in the world. Pretty sure she's like the next Gandhi. She's just so sweet. I think like compared to who we are and compared to like sometimes when I look at you, I'm like, dang, he raised like that one is uber sweet.
Oh yeah. Sometimes she'll drop something on me and I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from?
I remember she accidentally slid my watch off a counter when she was like, 3?
Oh.
And it was that watch that I'd like, by no means could I have gotten mad at that point. But that was the first time I think I had ever experienced patience with a kid. Because I'd just started living with you more. Because you had moved to Houston. I was coming into town a little bit more. And
I think you had a bedroom. You did have a bedroom.
I was in the guest bedroom. Which basically was like a kid's room / bed / my room.
I know. I can remember having to clean it. I'm like, all right, children, Phil will be here in 4 hours. Get the vacuum.
Pick up your Barbies and get them into the. Phil might have a date this weekend. Get these things cleaned up. And the door didn't lock either. That was a dangerous room.
I did it on purpose.
Yeah, I
put a non-locking handle on there just so that you got no privacy whatsoever. Now you know about welcome to my life.
I used to wake up at 4 or I'd feel like these two beady eyes staring at me, and it'd be your daughter just looking over the bed at me. Because she didn't really know me, because I think Aubrey was born. I was maybe on the road, so I had seen her maybe as like a baby, and then skipped out on maybe a year. And then when I came back, she was already walking and doing all that stuff. So I knew I was new to her. And then I had all these tattoos. And she's like, what is this alien thing in my playroom?
And then as they got older, they was like, when is Uncle Phil coming home?
Yeah. No, I miss them. That was a hard thing BK and I have touched on that a lot. Like when I left Houston, that was probably one of the toughest things in my life, because we became Full House, the show. I would come home and those little girls and me would go to Target. They never freaked out on me though, probably because I bought them everything.
That's why they freaked out on me.
Yeah. I spoiled them rotten. And then I would come home and Austin was living with you then too. So then Austin would be like, hey, can we go eat at Freebirds? I'd be like, sure. And then we go eat at Freebirds, and then Avery would be like, I want to go to Freebirds. I'd be like, yeah, you want a burrito? She'd be like, no, but yeah. And then Aubrey would be like, me too. Me too. And then we go there and we'd order like 18 burritos because they couldn't make up their mind, and then it'd be like a bite out of each. Austin would be in heaven.
We did a lot of stuff like Full House, like you said. Me and you would go outside and work out, and the girls would come try and work out, and then we would all ride bikes and run around the neighborhood and play.
But that was my first experience seeing that I really did like kids. I thought that I was terrified of Austin, but then I never had to deal with him as a baby. My friend Colby, when I lived with him and his wife, they had a little one when he was a teeny tiny one, and I remember they would come and like set him on the bed, like they'd be like, "Hey, I just need to shower, so like, can you watch him for like 10 minutes?" I'd be like, "Sure." He's not gonna like do anything, right? They're like, "He's a baby," and they would just like set him next to me, like, and I would just like, "Okay, here we go. Don't move." And so I never experienced kids, but being able to grow with Aubrey and Avery was really cool to me, because then you guys would trust me to like, you'd be like, "Hey, I have to go run some errands. Do you mind watching them for like 2 hours?" And I'd be like, "They don't have to like have diaper changes and stuff, right?" You're like, "No, they're big. They can use the bathroom on their own." And then we would go do stuff, and it was cool. Like I remember, we would go ride bicycles down the street, and I think one time I put too much vodka in my drink and decided to get them dressed and then go down the road, like, and just do like loops around the block waiting for you. And you guys get home, and you're like, Aubrey has the different shoes on different feet. she's wearing a size like 4 times too small for her as pants, and she's wearing like Austin's t-shirt.
She has a Sepultura t-shirt on that's an adult XL.
Yeah. And Avery was like, I think she was in Aubrey's clothes. And I took a photo, and I'm pretty sure I posted it online, like thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna be cool. I'm gonna get some chicks to dig this photo." And instantly, like the comments came rolling in from Jody, like, "You dressed my daughter so wrong." But it was like not in a mean way. It just was hysterical, because then I went back and looked at the photo. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she does have shoes on the opposite feet." Yeah, that was a bad parenting moment on my part. But they survived. They made it back in the house.
They're alive.
Those are wins some days, right?
Right. And I think my girls are also, now I still am not allowed to dress them or do any of that stuff, so don't feel bad about you getting in trouble for those things. Like I guarantee you, if we were to get my wife out here right now and ask her, "Hey, I went ahead and chose these outfits for the girls tomorrow," she'd be like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that." Let me go ahead and just put the kibosh on that. We're going to go ahead and move on with what I picked. I'm not allowed to do hair. I'm not allowed to do. And sometimes, I mean, I'd love to help out and do those things, but it just turns out I have bad taste.
I'm gonna go on a limb. Maybe I've seen you do the hair one time, and it was a rat's nest.
I'm allowed to brush hair.
Brush hair.
Clean, wet, out of the shower hair. I can help out and do some brushing. But if it comes to any sort of styling or anything else, I'm not allowed.
Not allowed.
And brushing, I'm not really, actually, that's a lie. I'm not really allowed to do that. I mean, I try to be allowed to do that, but the girls don't like it.
As I say, at this age, they probably are like, "Dad, I got this." Because they're getting into their, one's almost a teen.
I know, sir. Scary.
That's crazy.
Their mom's got them, though.
No, I mean, you both have, I was telling Jody today that I love y'all's the story. You guys are awesome. Both your parents are still together. Y'all are together. You guys go through so much. You guys have been through a lot. And back to what you've always done. You've stuck it out for the most part. Sure, like there's been a couple points in your life where you've just had to say, "Well, I gotta move forward." But this one, you guys have been through some tough times, and here you are.
I mean, nothing's
strong.
easy, you know?
Nothing is easy.
Anything that you want. I mean, some people are handed things, and then I think they don't appreciate those things. And I mean, having kids is tough. Having a marriage is tough. I mean, both of our parents are perfect examples of being together for so long. That's amazing. That's awesome. But I mean, who knows how many struggles they went through in being married 50 years? Like, I can't even imagine.
Well, your dad went through Vietnam, for one.
Yeah, for real.
As a Marine. Like...
let's take a pause real quick, and I know we weren't supposed to cut each other off, but I have to tell something. Since you want to go ahead and tell the world that I like to kiss on you when we have too much to drink and talk about my boots being tucked in, I'm gonna go ahead and say something about you.
Yeah. I know what story this is.
So early on today, we discussed a little bit about how we giggled and talk like schoolgirls. Sometimes that giggling and talking turns into hours of fist fighting. Actually, almost every time it turns into hours of fist fighting.
We even wrestled the other night. We're like what, 40 years old, and we got drunk and wrestled.
You looked at me from across the room, and I knew. I could see in your eye, there's a fist coming.
We didn't full on though. The couch was still in place. Sorry, not to interrupt you,
Right.
but go on.
So that is happening. I don't know what year that was. 1992. And we're in my room
Listening to Kelly
having
Q.
the best time of our lives, probably trying to tape songs that we liked, record songs we liked with the tapes. And our little talking and high-fiving turned into fist fighting. And there was some noises. I don't know if I can recreate those noises.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
And let's just say there were noises that have to do with adult things.
They sounded sexual.
They sounded very sexual. Well, my old man was doing whatever he's doing in his office, and then he hears these
like slaps.
fighting noises
Yeah, like
that sound like
these punches. There were these punches that sounded like slaps because we just weren't strong enough.
and with all of our might, a big right hook went, and he let it go on for a minute until he realized that we were in there doing something we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
And then did he bust the door open?
Yeah, he kicked. I wouldn't say he kicked it open, but it opened very fast.
And he was surprised because he thought he was going to catch us doing something inappropriate, but we were literally bleeding probably and punching each other. And so then he's like, "Oh, all right, whatever." Turns around, and then what did you say to my dad? Tell the world what you said to my dad.
I said something really bad, but at the time I was very I still kind of can be disrespectful, but this one hurts because I now have a brother-in-law that's a Marine, but I'm pretty sure I referred to him as a kitty cat. I was like, "Yeah, you can take your little kitty cat." Bleep. and he turned around, and I'm pretty sure he punched you off the bed and threw me through the closet, or did he throw you through the closet first and then me?
No, didn't he? He threw me. He pushed me off the bed into a closet to get to you.
Through the
and
wall.
I think he shoved you against the wall and then cocked back. And I thought he was gonna. Knock your head off. Like I'm just like, oh my god, this is happening. And he punched through the wall next to your head.
That's right.
But then he just left.
That's right.
And then we're both sitting there like, what happened?
I was like terrified. That will definitely be the day that I learned that I'm not gonna mess with a Marine ever.
That was also the day I learned that my dad. There's some scary things inside that man that I probably never wanted to see again.
Never want to see again. Your dad is the reason I have tattoos. I've told you that before. I'm pretty sure. But that I think slowly after that, we were still really young. I mean, I don't even think we were maybe drinking then. I don't even know. It might have been 12, 11. We were definitely skateboarding and being jerks.
There's no way my kids can ever hear this podcast. Next year, Avery's going to be like, "Oh, I went to a bonfire and got drunk." I'm like, "You're 12.
12.
She's like, "Yeah."
You
took a car to another country.
You took a car to another country. That's so crazy to think of sometimes that we did. We could drive to Mexico through the desert and see like full on drug deals go down.
Illegals crossing over. At the time, you just wave.
Hi. But your dad was a Vietnam veteran who I respect so much now as a person, like for multiple reasons. Your dad's just an amazing guy for one, but for two, that it's crazy that he went over there, served, and came back. But yeah, you and your mom. I mean, yeah, your mom and your dad, they went through that. That's a hard thing to go through. And it's not like there's cell phones. It's not like he could like, "Hey, honey, I'll FaceTime you at midnight my time and like 4 a.m. your time." No.
Text me when you get home tonight. And
it was a
safe.
letter. They had to write a letter and then wait, potentially wait longer. Be like, "Dang, he must have found someone else." And then all of a sudden, postman, ding ding. Here's a letter from your husband.
Crazy.
But he had a tattoo on his arm, the Marine globe. It looks like a big blob of black right now.
It looks like an eagle spider.
Yeah, I would say it's like a circle with like a spider monkey on the top of it. Like I would never assume that it was a Marine's eagle globe over the years, but it's an amazing tattoo. And I tell people about that all the time, and they're like, "Why'd you get into tattoos?" And some of it is definitely the roadie side of it, like watching the roadies come in. But that was when I was more like 18. I saw your dad, as a kid at like 11. So I had the idea of tattoos being on me since then. And I want them to all look bad like your dad's too one day. I just want to be a big, like melted crayon box.
So
So
at least you don't have an anklet.
Dude, we did get our first tattoos together.
I know. Why on earth would you let me get an anklet?
I think I wanted an anklet because I at the time I was thinking of things I could hide. I mean, I hid my tongue ring from my parents for 7 years. I got it when I was 14. Yeah. I mean, just crazy things like that. And I want my kids to be more like your kids, where they have that ability to be honest. And like, do I want my kid to go out and get a tongue ring at 14? No. Would I have to have some patience and be like, you're an idiot for doing that, but let's take care of it now? Like, because I'm pretty sure I remember getting my tongue pierced and then it got infected and then it just was like a gross infected tongue. Like, my dad could have so helped me out and gave me, like, I don't know, mouthwash. Hydrogen peroxide. He probably would have wanted me to, like, rinse it out with, like, rubbing alcohol.
My grandma did not have kind things to say about my tongue piercing. I don't even know if it probably not even appropriate what she said, but when she found out, she was just like, sure, one of those boys, huh? You can go ahead and not talk to me anymore. I'm like, whoa, that escalated
Grandma.
quick.
You're like, okay, well, I'm going to go get some food. And is your grandma up in Minnesota?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you were back in Minnesota?
My grandpa's funeral.
Oh, yeah, that's
4
right.
years ago.
Do you miss? Well, you moved when you were too young, so you don't even really.
Nah, I'm from Texas.
You're from Texas. You're from Houston.
Houston, Chuco.
So what are you doing in Houston right now? I mean, I know, but our audience doesn't know.
We're doing a little bit of construction, a little bit of house flipping. I love it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Drive your dream truck now. I think that's the coolest part.
I mean, I drive the bank's dream truck. They let me use it sometimes. It's awesome.
But I can think back to about 4 years ago when you were commuting again on a horrible commute that you would not only be in the car for an hour and a half each way, you'd have to get on a train, you have to walk. I mean, our conversations, we have conversations some days 10 minutes, but those conversations were like 2-hour conversations every day because you're in a car, and then I'd listen to you get on the train, get off, and you walk into your little hospital. You were miserable, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you would tell me that you loved it because you got to wear a suit, and you looked, you looked good. You looked professional, but deep down, I don't know. You look like you were dying.
I'm not a big, huge fan of the corporate life, but, I mean, it was a good job. Like I said, it was a job. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And that one just required me to ride a train and walk, sit in the car for an hour and a half each direction.
But you were definitely not in your dream car, because I remember you were driving like a little Geo Metro. Yeah, you were driving your son's car. But I love the fact that you're doing. This is hard work too. You're probably working more hours now than you were then, but I just feel like you seem so much more free and so much more relaxed.
I mean, we're a family team flipping houses and doing construction, so I mean and we all get along, so it's great.
And you get to bring your daughters to work. Like, what a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm with my wife most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she handles all of our stuff.
It's amazing, dude.
Yeah, it's great. We just spend a lot of time together.
I see you again being my inspiration in so many ways. Like, leaving the road was hard because, let's be real, I had a freaking rock star job, and I treated it like a rock star job most of the time. You know, like, I had the fun, I did all the wild things, I lived a really expensive life, but I was missing out on and that was one thing that I was always so jealous about you, is that you got to actually spend time with your wife, you got to spend time with your family, you got to go on these little trips, like, and that just is so freaking cool. And now you took a step in such a hard direction once again in your life, and now you're building a business in one of the biggest metropolitan cities in all the land, and taking that time to build it right, do the right things, but then you get to take your daughter to work and show her how to build something. Like, that's super freaking cool, dude.
It's cool. Well, what's not cool is some of our employees bring their kids to work. I'm like, it's not the same, guys. That's a nail gun.
That's a liability.
Kid's not allowed to have that.
Well, that's the liability side of the business. Like, if your kid picks up a nail gun and shoots herself in the foot, well,
that's just bad parenting.
That's just bad parenting. Then you get looked at again. Then you get judged. You get to be a judger. That I don't know. I'm so stoked for you, dude. Like I can't, in a million words, ever come up with the right sequence to ever say like, congratulations, you're doing it right. You're doing everything a parent should do, and that's just awesome. And you've been doing it for 18 years or 20 years.
How old am I?
Well, how's Austin? That's the kicker, because you haven't been taking care of yourself for more than that. Whatever the date he was born, then you can say like, okay, then I've
been doing all right since.
I've been doing all right. Now, like you've probably stumbled, which we all have, but you've never been you've never had to be a parent that like ran, which I don't know. You've always been very big inspiration. So being a parent now and being an adult over the last 2 years, I'm like, man, maybe Neal was the adult the whole time, even though you were the one that would black out in the back of the Uber. And we all thought that we were being the adults. I was like, man, maybe Neal was the adult, because somehow he still woke up. He did all the dishes. He made us all breakfast. And now he's out mowing the lawn. What's his deal? Why does he have to be a show-off?
Overachiever.
Overachiever is right.
My son's going to be so upset when he hears this podcast.
Why?
Because he thought, in his mind, that the two of us together, that this was going to be an hour and a half of telling like the worst of the worst. And he kept saying, I just cannot wait. Because he thought that some things might come out that he had yet to hear about.
He could use it.
And he was stoked about it. And then it's going to be like, oh, you're a good dad. And I'm like, oh, you're a good dad. You have a beautiful baby. And then I'm like, my kids are so amazing. Blah, blah, blah. And then nothing else?
He's like,
That's all you got?
That's all you got, Dad?
What?
You flew all the way there to... You could have said that over the phone.
To tell him I put poop in your mouth? Everyone's laughing at me, Dad.
Everybody. This is horrible. This is bull. I think everybody was expecting you to come on this show for a hot minute. Even BK, even like everybody was like, that you can't, you're trying to make a podcast that doesn't like, you don't curse a lot. And all you and Neal do is curse.
I'm so bad.
Yeah.
I don't think I have cursed yet.
Neither one of us have. But
thank you, Lord, baby Jesus.
That's the point, though, is that we took responsibility and said, okay, let's just try not to do this for 1.5 hours of our lives, and then we can go back to being sailors here in about 10 minutes.
Jody told me she wasn't going to talk to me the rest of the trip if I cursed on the podcast. And she's staring at me through that window right there. So
she has like a little radar thing that she has like a cone next to the window and can hear the whole conversation.
And she can see every time you say something that gets me going, and I want to just let it out. I just catch her out of the corner of my eye, and she's like this.
I'll find you. I want to go so much deeper at times, but you can come back on this show anytime and we can tell stories all day long. We have a massive amount of stories, though. I said it earlier. There's times where I'll tell you something and you're like, I wasn't there. I'm like, yeah, you were. Yes, you were. We did this. And you're like, I kind of remember that.
I told you another day and you told me you weren't there, and it was me and you. And I don't know if we are allowed to say where we were, what we're doing, but we were at a golf course, middle of the night, drinking, and a rental security guard told us we had to leave, and we had a friend who lived in that neighborhood, and so we're like, I own this place, this is my golf course, and the guy's like, leave or we're gonna call the cops. And we're like, whatever, rental cop, you're not important. And then next thing you know, the real cops are like, you guys are getting, I think I got a public intoxication ticket. I think you got a ticket for peeing on the golf course.
I have. How many tickets do you think you have before you're 18? Like, really?
40.
40?
Maybe more. I know I had at least like 30 traffic violations in the car.
I probably had 20 of them. 3 were traffic violations. Everything else was something rowdy, like public intoxication, urinating in public, riding my... I remember I got popped riding my dirt bike on the street. I tried to run from the cop, and I ended up turning down into a cul-de-sac, and he cornered me into a house. He made me push my dirt bike home. He followed me the whole way.
Love it.
He made me push miles. And I finally got to one strip of dirt, and I took off. He was at the other side waiting for me. He was a smart little dude. Popped me good though.
Well, when you look at it now, then you thought like I could do this, but that's like he was probably our age at the time, and he's like, this idiot has no idea that there's nowhere to turn, and this road ends exactly where I'm going.
How many times do you think you've run from the cops?
Oof. And been caught?
No, just run. 'Cause, I mean, I can honestly say probably 50 times.
I mean, in the desert with you, at least 30 of them. I was part of that.
30? Well, the
I'm
desert.
Just go ahead and say none.
The desert was like one of those, but that was the wild ones when you would run. It reminds me of that. Remember Fast and Furious 2, where all the cars come out of the little warehouse and they all just run from the cops and they go in like 1,000 different. That's what a desert party getting busted reminded me of.
The wolf pack.
Yeah.
You remember the
oh yeah,
horseback 4-wheel driving cops?
Yeah. Oh my gosh! I mean, it was why I drove my dad's Contour out to the desert for parties, and I remember running from the cops one night. We had forgot this guy on his birthday. It was PJ. I don't know if you remember that night. We went out and got a bunch of kegs. We go out to the desert. We all show up, and then we're like, well, "Where's PJ? It's his birthday." We're like, somebody left him at his house. And I don't think we even had cell phone, or maybe we had beeper. Maybe one person had a cell phone and was able to call someone to go get him. But by the time he got out there, pretty much like 10 minutes later, the cops came. I ran in my dad's Contour, the green one. I'm jumping. I can feel the wheels, like front wheel drive through the desert. I'm hitting these sand dunes at like, I'm just going to say 40, 50 miles an hour, trying to get away. And this cop hops out in front of me. Like, it was one of those moments in a movie where you slam on the brakes and you're watching yourself get closer to the person. And I stop and he's like, "Were you running?" I was like, "No, I was just leaving. I was actually taking my friends home." And he was like, "Going pretty fast in this car to be just taking people magically away from a party that we just busted." I was like, "There's a party?" I played like the biggest idiot card that night, and he goes, "Yeah, you don't see all these lights coming up from behind you?" I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was just out, and I think I had 2 girls in the car, so I was like, "Oh, we were just out here like people are star watching, like something really like, I was trying to be like that romantic, like, "Nah, man, I brought a freaking basket of wine and like a blanket, and we were stargazing or something."
It was a desert date.
And I'm watching these other cops now hop out of bushes, and they're pulling all of these people over who had like paraphernalia and like beers in the car still, and they're like, "You don't know that guy over there?" And I did. And I'd be like, "No, never seen. I don't even go to school in this town. Like, I don't."
He's like, "Phil, what up, Phil?"
Dude, somehow he goes, "Well, I tell you what, you get out of here right now." And so I left, right? Going down that bumpy ass road all the way to the main highway. And remember the old racetrack out there?
Mm-hmm.
So I hop on that road, and I'm cooking now. I'm like, we just need to get away from this situation. Lights. I was like, OMG, what is going on? Cop pulls. I pull over. I'm like, this is it. This is gonna be a hard one. He gets to the window and he's like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" I was like, "No idea." He's like, "What are you doing out here?" I was actually looking for the racetrack." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Oh, well, I'm a race car driver and I just flew into town and I have a race coming up and I wanted to see where I had to be in the morning." And I just was kind of scoping it out. And he was like, "Oh, well, the racetrack's about a quarter mile up the road, but it's dark out here and you can't get in right now." I said, "Oh, well, okay, cool. Well, at least I know where it is now." He goes, "All right, we'll drive safe." And he let me go. But that one was like one of a kind. All the other times I had to run, hide, jump fences, like leaving parties in neighborhoods was probably the funnest time running from cops.
Remember when the helicopter came to my parents' house? There's like, we ran out of places to park in the street, so people just started parking in everyone's yard. And the neighbors all called the cops, and everyone just acted like nothing was happening, and the police are just there trying to get in with the gate closed and everyone's still going. Like, I felt like it was a halfway version of like, what is that movie?
Can't hardly wait.
Project X.
Oh, Project X. Yeah.
It was like, I'm like, hey, my parents are out of town. You guys can bring like 8 people over and like we can get some beers. Next thing you know, there's 2-3 high schools that I don't know anyone and 500 people fighting, windows breaking.
Oh my God.
All my neighbors are outside arguing with kids who don't even know where they are. They're just at a party. Some rando helicopter came.
But you didn't start having parties at your house until you were, I mean, I honestly can say maybe 18. No, because that was when you had been getting
17.
17. Yeah, you pretty much respected your parents' house for them, but I don't think they traveled that much either. And then all of a sudden they decided, did they get an RV then?
No, they went to, like, my mom's like, hey, I need you to come talk to me when you get home from school. I'm like, all right, what's up? She's like, so we're going to Germany for a month, like tomorrow. I'm like, wait, what?
And you were like you still had like high school, right? Like, yeah, so you were like in class.
And my mom's like, here's some money and a cell phone and a beeper and the keys to all the cars and a credit card. Make sure your sister goes to school and stays alive. Like,
oh my God.
Peace out.
Peace out.
And I think I didn't do anything most of the time they're gone. And one of you guys probably influenced me to do it at the end.
You were a good kid. I remember getting you to drink your first 40. Or
and
30.
Then you left me on my front porch. Didn't think I remembered that, did you?
Oh, no, I knew. You always hold that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I think you've always held over my head. Every time I'm like, well, yeah, but you did this. You're like, you left me.
You left me to die.
You left me on my front porch at 12.
And I don't even think you rang the doorbell. I think my dad found me.
He had one of the loudest gate doors, though, in the front. Yeah.
And then at a spring, and when you let it close, it's like, gong, 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 gong.
Yeah, loudest door ever. And then you had Chewy, the dog that just was loud. I was terrified of that dog growing up. I think once I would go to your house and get into your room, and then we would like, listen to music and fight.
The blanket?
I never left your room because I was always scared Chewy would be in the hall and eat me. I don't think I peed in your house for like 10 years.
That one, I mean, the Germany trip was a big party. That was bad. That was probably the only big party I ever had at my parents' house without permission.
I can't think of another time that you had a big party.
And my parents come home, and I didn't think I even got in any trouble, though. I think I just kind of owned it. I'm like, I had some friends over, and this happened. Things went out of control. I couldn't stop them. Told them to leave. They said no. I'm like, all right.
Libby was still alive, so everything was good.
Well, I forgot about her. She was there.
Wait. Oh, yeah, her. Your sister always cracked me up growing up, too, because she would leave us alone for the most part, but every once in a while she'd get a little rowdy, and you and her were rowdy little brother and sister.
She was scrappy.
She was scrappy.
She's scrappy now.
I know, but I remember her being, she kind of reminds me of your middle one. They're like just enough scrappy to where you're like kind of scared that they might stab you. Like you're like,
before you say something, you have to check. Hey, did you bring a knife?
Yeah. Like,
no, I don't have a knife. All right, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say what I'm gonna say now.
Yeah, can you walk through that metal detector over there real quick? Like you drive her all the way to the airport, like pass her through the metal detector center, send her back, and be like, okay, now we need to talk. She's like, what was that for? Just checking for weapons.
Safety first.
My safety first. But your sister was a scrappy little thing. I always remember just like her being so like quiet, and then one day I was like, whoa, did they just have it out? And I didn't have, you were my brother. I mean, still are. But growing up, I'd say you, Andy, Slop, and Janine were my closest friends. But you and me spent the most time together overall. And I mean, I think of you as a brother. Not to get all sentimental.
For sure.
not to get you all.
That changed directions real quick. Hey, remember when your sister tried to stab you?
But
I love you.
But I just was always so jealous that you had a sister to fight with, and I never had that. So like, maybe that's why we fight so much, because I always wanted a brother to fight with.
Have we never been in a real fight?
I mean,
there's been some times where playing who can take more kidney shots turned into I'm punching you in the face because I'm mad at you. But I don't think the kidney shots ever started out of anger. You've probably been the one person in my life that I've been honest with. So I think that your honesty and my honesty together have always created a situation where
we told it as it was, no matter what the other person wanted to hear. Even if you were being a jerk that day, maybe to me or to someone else, and we just say like, well, dude, just do this, and you're like, okay, fine, I will, and then we go about our business. You're not a grudge holder, though.
It's exhausting. Who has time for that?
A lot of people. Like, what do you mean?
Says the 10 billion haters out there.
Like, a lot of people have time for that, clearly, because there is a lot of haters in the world.
I just don't roll. I mean, there are some things. I won't give any specifics that I will never let go, and some people that I will never give my attention to ever again.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as day-to-day things and people I mess all the time, and I mean, especially you, my family, my wife, like, what is the point?
Yeah,
I just don't have, I mean, I don't have time for that.
It's love.
Yeah.
You're probably one of the biggest lovers I know, even though you'll never say it. You're a lover. Look at that smile. Look at you. Little love dog.
I almost feel like you bringing, or me coming to see your baby turned into you setting me up on a podcast so that you could say things to trigger me just to get a reaction, and I'm not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Well, we're going to get off of this podcast. I'm going to hit end, and then you're going to fight me. You're either going to fight me or kiss me.
The next episode is going to be about how I exploded on you after this podcast.
I'm going to show up to film next week, and I'm going to have a black eye. Dude's going to be like, you all right? Be like, it's cool.
Every time you cornered me in that podcast.
My best friend tried to kiss me, and then we fought in my yard for an hour. I'm never going to live this one down.
I come here to do two things.
All right. So growing up, we had some wild memories, but we had some fun memories too. Like, you can manual a bicycle around a block. So anybody who doesn't know what a manual is, it's you can get on a 2-wheel bicycle, right? Because they have 3-wheel bicycles and 1-wheel bicycles, right?
On a regular bicycle.
On a regular BMX bicycle, you can take that and you can get on your back wheel and not pedal, but use your, what is it? Using your thigh muscles?
Just weight balance.
But you have to push, though. A manual is you're kind of pushing the bike forward, right?
You like pull it up on a wheelie and then you balance out and you like adjust with your knees and pump. Balance it out, yeah.
But how far do you think the furthest is that you could go?
I rode it like a mile one time at a Target. Down
Really?
a sidewalk, down Sunland Park, jumped a curb on a manual, then rode down a concrete side of a freeway pass, and then all the way across the Target parking lot with a U-turn and back across the Target Best Buy parking lot all the way.
That
was it. I worked. I mean, I don't even know how many hours I spent trying that. Days, weeks, months.
We spent a lot of time at the mall over in that area getting soft ice. Remember the shaved ice from Farrakha's sister?
That's another thing my kids will never experience. Like, never get dropped off at the mall anymore. There won't even be malls. There's hardly, malls are dying out as it is.
Yeah. Dropped off with a couple quarters just to make sure you could call some people. And then steal.
So many times I'm like, we don't have any quarters. I'm like, you guys threw them in the fountain or did something with it. I'm like, what are we doing?
I bought cigarettes and
then
smoked right by the
you
fountain.
and Ty are always like, let's just run home. I'm like, what? This is a terrible idea.
Me and Ty liked uppers.
Do you try to run home one day when we missed the bus?
From school. We ate a bunch of uppers at school.
We had 3 people and 1 skateboard, and somehow we were all going to ride it home. And you and Ty were like, I don't even know what the word is. Like when salivating
and hyperventilating. Yeah.
And we decided we're going to run home, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. And the PE coach who lived across the street from Ty in our neighborhood, right next door to where we had all the rock fights, she's like, stops me. She said, what's going on with you guys? I'm like, oh, we're just walking home. And you're like, she said, are you guys on drugs? And we're like, absolutely not. No, we don't do drugs.
Absolutely not.
And then did she give us a ride home, or did she just tell us?
Yeah, she gave us a ride home. I can remember sitting on like the floor of her van too. I don't even think she had seats. Yeah, that was a fun moment in life too. Well, I will always oh my gosh. I will remember stringing like fishing line across the street right in front of Ty's house.
I knew you were going to say that.
At like 2 a.m. and like waiting for cars to come flying down your road, and then we'd lift it up and there'd be like a
fluorescent shirt.
Yeah, and you'd hear them slam on their brakes.
That was the worst game. And then TV remotes, going to people's houses with universal remotes.
Changing the channels on
the
them.
kids are like, Dad, the TV's not working. And they come in there and be like, stop changing the channel.
Yeah. But I kind of hope my kid does some of those things. Like, at least play outside. Like, maybe he doesn't need to get in trouble. Maybe he doesn't need to go to, like, some of those extents. But I think you're right. Like, potentially our kids will never experience those things because it was just maybe a different time.
Aubrey told me the other day that's my youngest daughter, said she was going to go to a birthday party, and she said, what do I do if the girls said that they want to go do the ding-dong ditching?
You said go do it.
No, I told you. I'm like, I don't play that. Don't do that. You're grounded. In my mind, though, I was like, get it.
Get it, girl.
Just don't get caught.
If you do, it's cool. All right, we'll start wrapping this up, but on one more story that will always, I tell people this, and it's hard for them to believe, but we lived in a very mountainous area, for anyone who doesn't know this, and so the mall, what was the name of that road? Sunset? No.
Sunland Park.
Sunland Park. Was on that main road, Sunland Park, and that led all the way to the top of the mountain, right? And there was a big drainage ditch that we would ride. And I tell this story not because it was impressive in certain ways, but because it was wildly scary. But one of the most fun memories I've ever had with you, and it didn't involve drinking. It was like a middle of the day, summer. We got dropped off by your parents up there in the Suburban, and it was you. We had taken our brakes off our bicycle, and we hopped into the ditch, and we said we were going to go no brakes all the way until we reached your house because we could take that road all the way in, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And we started, but what I don't think any of us really thought through is how many major intersections we had to go through with no brakes.
And starting at the top of the ditch. That ditch was gnarly.
It was a straight hill.
Fast, yeah.
There was no brakes. And I'm pretty sure the only brake that I did use was foot on the tire, like to slow me down every once in a while, but I went to the bottom with you, and how fast do you think we got going? 30?
I mean, at the time, I feel like we're going 100.
Yeah.
Probably 30, 40.
But so we go down this hill in the first ditch, and then you hop directly into a 4-lane road. Remember?
It was pretty much, I mean, I don't know if it's considered a highway, but it's like the biggest transit street to go east to west in El Paso at the time, other than Mesa.
Well, then, we hopped into that 4-lane road, then maybe 2 miles, which went by pretty quick at 30 miles an hour on a bicycle. And we're riding in the middle of the road too. We're like riding with traffic, right? Then we hit Mesa, which is a 4-way major intersection. And we blew through it without even looking. I don't, like, BK's always like, I don't know how you're alive. So then we hop into the next ditch, which is even steeper, but you can't go all in through the whole thing, remember? Because then it starts to get real deep and you can't get out.
Almost like that.
Well, at the top you can get in it, but not all the way at the bottom because then it gets real bad, right? So then
it turns to square at the end.
So we hop out and you're right back into 4-lane traffic. And then we hit the mall. Then after those intersections, which I am still amazed that we made it through. Then we go through the freeway overpass, and then it was smooth sailing.
And then when you get to the bottom, though, there was 2 miles of flat. And then we're like, oh, we're over this now. I'm like,
horrible.
Can we go to the Shell and call my mom?
The Shell that we used to paintball people at. All right.
I wasn't there for that.
We have.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All I'll say is Massimo and CK1 from the mall, the Dillard section, so we could get some Swisher Sweets and
real quick. This just came into my mind. Do you remember going? Was it me, you, and Ty, or me and you? Ty's brother's friend. What was his name? Aaron.
Uh-huh.
Told us that he would give us some cash. We needed cash for something. And he's like, if you guys go and you steal,
Yeah.
he's like, I'm going to give you guys this cash.
Yeah.
And that was like, this is a lesson day for us as children.
Yeah.
I was scared to death. Not huge on the stealing world. We thought we could do it, no problem though. We did.
Yeah.
We get back in the car. He just snatches it from us and he's like, get out.
Get
We're like,
out.
wait, what?
Wait, what?
And he's like, money? No, get out. And we got straight robbed. And that was a time where I'm like, I don't trust adults anymore. You, sir, are a liar.
You're a liar. Well, hey, dude, thank you for coming to visit me.
Thanks for having me here.
I love you, dude. You've been not only a best friend, but a brother to me for many years. And, you know, I really do look up to you. And all I can say is I look forward to many, many, many more of these. And I would love to have you on again. And at this point, well, we're going to bottoms up and let's go enjoy the rest of the day, my friend. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
Oh, by the way, everyone, please make sure to subscribe, do all the things, enjoy Backyards and Bevvies, you know, let us know what you're thinking. And I'll link up some tequila sites and I'll do all the good things, but really enjoyed having Neal here, and just thank you for enjoying Backyards and Bevvies and all the support that you guys give us. Have a great, wonderful week. Keep it safe, midweek treat, and bottoms up.
Whoa. I can hear you.